This is Matt with Movement Resilience, and right now we're going to talk about the toe touch, how to use it in screen and assessment, and basically how to glean information from it when programming for strength training. All right, so big thing I want to look at is number one is when you're assessing and screening and just looking at movement, right? Well, with the toe touch in mind, you want to look at multiple angles, side views, front view, back view. This holds true for the toe touch, but also for multiple different, if someone's running, sprinting, training, or any form of exercise, you want to look at multiple angles. So number one is take a point on the hip. Okay, it doesn't have to be anatomically correct or anything like that. Just take a point on the hip. Okay, stare at that point when you watch from either side when they're performing the toe touch. All right, and the goal is you want to make sure also that their feet are close together. Okay, you don't want a toe touch to be performed with feet wide apart. You want them together like that. Okay, so if you're looking from the side, feet are together, you want to be able to see, are they rounding at the lower back to get down there? Are they able to sit the hips back? And you can use that point on the hip that we talked about. Is it moving from the front to back, or is it going up and down, or is it staying still, right? So we don't want people to round at the back. We want to think if we can sit that butt back as we go down toward the toes, that would be a pretty nice thing if we're able to do that, because all human beings should have the ability to touch their toes. I mean, how else are you going to tie your shoes, right? So basically, we want stare at that point of the hip. If we can sit back, if we can load the posterior chain muscle group, get some tissue tolerance back there to be able to sit back there, okay? You can have a slight bend in the knees, but we're not trying to have a bend in the knees here. The goal is to load the posterior chain, weight shift posteriorly, so weight shift back, okay? We want to try to not round too much at the lumbar spine, okay? We want that just natural curve there, and we want to be able to go all the way down and touch our toes. Now, if we can touch the ground and palm the ground, that just demonstrates an excessive ability to get down there, to have that flexibility and mobility in the spine, and just basically you're someone who's maybe they have their joints are too mobile, but that doesn't mean it's good or bad. What we're trying to look for is the main things we're looking for is can they posterior weight shift back by staring at that point, okay? Are they avoiding rounding the lumbar spine, okay? And are they able to get with feet close together? Are they able to get down to their toes? That's the important part we're looking for here, okay? Also, so if we're going to look from the front or the back, you want to see if their spine deviates from side to side. Do they weight shift into one hip more than the other? Does one knee bend and the other one stay locked? These are things we want to look for. So some examples of that, so let's say some improper examples or some deviations that we can see from looking at the front or the back of the toe touch. So let's say if I come down and my right knee bends, that might tell me something fishy is going on the right side. And then if the left knee bends, we can obviously look into the left side and kind of detect down that path, so to speak, and kind of investigate more and assess more. Now, if you see something along the lines of, well, they have to bend to get down here, that might tell you maybe there's a pain perception, posterior chain, maybe some lumbar stuff going on. If they have the inability to sit the hips back, load the posterior chain muscle group, and maybe even round at the lumbar spine, something might be going on in here that you may need to look deeper into, okay? Again, the toe touch is just a starter. It's a starter, and then you kind of go down different paths based off what you see, right? So if I'm rounding, right, might want to look into that more. If I'm bending the knees and I'm not sitting my butt back, might want to look into that more. More along the lines of checking out one side to the other. So the ability to disassociate from hip to hip is also really important. You want to take into account the dominant leg or the dominant lower extremity as well. That's important to note. So I'm just using, it's just a 4-inch Reebok step. Something within that range typically works well. So same exact setup here. You want the person to have their feet roughly, closely together as best you can here, okay? And the goal is I want to aim my hands and reach for my toes on the left foot, the foot that's on the ground, okay? And again, you want to be able to look from all different angles here, right? Am I rotating to get down there? Am I bending this knee to get down there? These are some things we want to look at, okay? Again, the toe touch is a starting piece. It's a nice starting assessment screen piece, and then once the information you can glean from that, you go down those avenues based off of what you take from the initial assessment and screen of the toe touch. So if I were to switch sides here, am I rotating down to get there? Might be something going on in that right hip, the inability to load the hip and posterior weight shift back, inability to get that hamstring to have some flexibility there and not feel like it's going to blow off and snap. Because these are important things. That whole perception of pain and threat are important as well. Sitting back on the hips and being able to touch your toes, every human being should be able to do this. This is just a basic thing you should be able to perform, all right? Coming all the way down, coming back up. Obviously, the more reps you do, slow and controlled. If I'm assessing and screening, I'll look for anywhere from 3 to 5 reps, and I'll walk around, I'll look at multiple angles, front, back, side to side, and see if I can gather different pieces of information, okay? That's all we're doing here, essentially, right? So I always recommend look from the front, look from the back, left side and right side, whether it's the 2-leg toe touch, okay, or if it's just a single leg approach where one foot's up on top of, let's say, a 4-inch platform. Again, just to reiterate, stare at a point on the hip. Are they able to sit their hips back, load the posterior chain, the hammies, the glutes, and so on and so forth? Are they able to keep the feet close together? Are they avoiding any sort of rotational items? Are they avoiding one knee bending or one knee kind of getting out of alignment? And basically, are they able to avoid excessive lumbar rounding the low back? If we're avoiding this, this is a good thing, okay? So again, run through your toe touch, the assessment screen. These are things to look for and to pick up, and then go from there, okay? Give it a shot. Thanks.